Ako tego Rikowaya, Bakunore Mui Jujujanangor. Greetings to you all in indigenous languages of Marma and Chakwan communities from Chittagong Hill Tracts in Bangladesh. My home, where I belong. I'm Rani Yanyan. Let me begin by conveying my gratitude to the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and the Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice, Desiree Cormier-Smith, for giving me this opportunity to speak at this event today. Also, allow me to congratulate to truly deserving fellow recipients who have shown exemplary courage and commitment in fighting against all odds in their efforts to ensure racial equity and justice in their respective countries. Kari Guajajara, like me, an indigenous leader, who has traveled here from the Brazilian Amazon, where she provides legal supports and services to protect the environment, provide demarcation of indigenous lands, and protect peoples in voluntary isolation. Oswaldo Bilbao Lobaton, an Afro-Peruvian activist who has dedicated his life to fighting racism and discrimination. Victorina Luca, a human rights defender raising awareness through radio broadcasts, celebrating the language and culture of Moldovan Roma. Sajia Mosba, a brave black Tunisian activist who has not backed down from the fight against racial discrimination and the value of diversity and equality. And Saraswati Nepali, who gives voices to courageous social justice movements led by the Dalit community of Nepal to acquire land rights, gain access to education, and obtain equal justice from the courts. It is my utmost pleasure to share this stage with you. Let's give them a big round of applause. I'm both honored by this recognition and humbled to receive this award on the International Day of the World's Indigenous People. On this day, we celebrate the diversity of peoples. We recognize continuous marginalization and racial discrimination against indigenous peoples within their nation states. And we aim to promote and protect rights of indigenous peoples. Distinguished guests, militarization of our territory, state-sponsored settlement of hundreds and thousands of non-indigenous peoples on our land, ongoing land grabbing by politically backed individuals, entities, and security forces, arson and communal attack, impunity for perpetrators of violence against indigenous women and girls, and criminalization of rights defenders are just a few examples that are eerily similar to what indigenous and racially marginalized communities are facing elsewhere in the world. In this context, my work as an indigenous human rights defender has focused on raising awareness on systematic marginalization of indigenous peoples, facilitating network and alliance building among communities and organizations, and mobilizing indigenous communities to defend their right to land. I have seen and experienced firsthand how intersecting identities paves a way to further marginalize indigenous women. This is precisely why a significant portion of my work is dedicated to empowering indigenous women, more specifically rural indigenous women, in becoming agents of change, worthy leaders and protectors of our rights. We have been able to initiate appointments of women village chiefs in a male-only traditional system, thanks to the chief of Chakma Circle, Rajadevashish Roy, who I am the advisor to. And the number is ever increasing since the inception 8 years ago, as are the contributions from these indigenous women leaders. Once I was a youth full of aspirations, new ideas, hopes, and dreams of a better and just world. And now, 10 years later, I'm older, but no different than the self I had. But very few youths in our indigenous communities were and still are as fortunate as I have been. Lack of opportunities, crisis of leadership, and denial of accessing spaces to voice their opinions have created a despair among these youths. Despite having full potential to contribute towards or even lead to this movement against racial discrimination. Creating enabling environments for these youths, bridging generation gap between the elders and the youth, and building solidarity and facilitating collaboration among youths from different ethnicities have been my priority since my early days as a rights defender. Esteemed guests, the global scourge of racism and xenophobia cannot be eradicated instantly. Neither can we hope for a just world in a given number of years. This endeavor is a continuous work in progress that my fellow awardees understand too well. To move forward, however, we need to ensure that rule of law prevails in our countries. We need open and democratic governments that are accountable to citizens. And within ever-shrinking civic spaces in many countries, activists are dealing with impact of curbed freedom of speech and freedom of express that reduces our ability to communicate and to amplify awareness on these pressing issues. So this Global Anti-Racism Champions Award is significant in that aspect, as it is amplifying each of our voices and will be integral in increasing our visibility of our unique but interconnected struggles to achieve racial equity and justice. And on that note, before I end my speech, I would like to assert that no one, and absolutely no one, can become a champion without efforts of countless others and without their support, small or grand. To me, this award is not a testament of my achievement. It is a recognition of our collective effort, our achievements. Hence, I'm dedicating this award to all my fellow human rights defenders, the elders and the youths alike, and rural indigenous villagers from Bangladesh, the most genuine, the most resilient people I've been ever fortunate to work with, to interact with, who have supported me through and through. Ladies and gentlemen, claiming rights as a person from racially discriminated communities is challenging, but claiming rights as a woman from those communities poses heightened challenges which I, like other women human rights defenders around the world, are constantly trying to overcome. The path to justice is never meant to be easy, and efforts are made to silence our voices over and over again. Yet, I'm here, we are here, standing our ground, and we are determined to strengthen and uplift the next generation of leaders and champions. In solidarity with everyone around the world who are fighting against racial discrimination and structural injustices to build a better and a just world for all. Thank you all. Keju tambare, juju.
Rani Yanyan, thank you. It is really hard to follow that, but let me just try to close this out. I want to thank Rani as well as our other awardees for the work they've done and the work they continue to do to combat racism, discrimination, and xenophobia.